everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing a book haul, but specifically, these are all romance books, and wow, is there a lot of them. I don't think I have ever filmed 2 book hauls in one day before, nor have I ever filmed 2 book hauls that are quite this big. These are both huge. I thought that the first one that I filmed, which I think will be the second one that you're seeing, but I thought that that one was the biggest, but I think these are pretty on par with each other. Basically, I just have put it off for so long, and I've just been sent books. I've picked up some on my own. I've gotten some like sent to me for work to take photos of. It just has all added up, and that means that I have a absolute ton of books to talk about today. So I'm not going to waste any time. We are just going to be focusing on romance books today, and let's just get right into it. The first couple that I have here, and I'm just kind of grabbing them from the stack wherever they might show up, but the first couple I have actually already read, so we're already off to a good start. So the first one here is The Summer Job by Lizzie Dent. This is a romance book that is set in Scotland, so I thought that was really exciting, and it also, I saw it was blurbed by Emily Henry, so that made me intrigued. And this cover is a lot of fun. Like, it definitely is an eye-catching cover, but it's basically about a main character who ends up like pretending to be her best friend, who is an expert in wine and got a job at this like estate and fancy hotel in Scotland. And the main character actually doesn't really know all that much about wine, but kind of has to like fake it till you make it because she has taken over this job. And it's kind of a story of her trying to find herself. It's really funny. The main character is a ton of fun, definitely like different, and I hate to say quirky because I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know, it's overused, but like she's quirky in like a good way. I just had a lot of fun with this book. I thought it was a really easy breezy read, and honestly there was a romance and the romance was fine, but mostly what I liked reading about was the transformation of the main character, and also the kind of like tension in her best friend, like that relationship there. It definitely was like an interesting twist on the romances that I'm used to typically reading, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I actually have another book by the author somewhere. It will show up here very shortly, but if you wanted to hear any of my thoughts on the books that I have already read, I will link down below my recent reads video that I'm doing just specifically on romance books. I'm not sure if that one will be up before or after this video, but whenever it is, I will link it for you guys. Next is The Beach Trap by Ali Brady, and this one is kind of another one where I feel like the romance wasn't the main focus. There are kind of 2 romance plot lines going on in here, and they were fine, but what I was most interested in this one, on the other hand, was the sister relationship. So this is about 2 sisters. They're actually half sisters, and they became best friends at camp like years and years ago, and then she ended up discovering, I'm gonna give them names because it's really confusing if I don't, so it's Kat and Blake. So Kat was abandoned by her father, and Blake actually like grew up with him. Kat was kind of like the other family that he hid that no one else knew about until like the end of camp, and then Blake essentially thinks that Kat was using her to find some information about her father. But years and years later, now their father has died, and they haven't seen each other, they haven't spoken at all, but they discover that their father actually left them a joint inheritance, and that was the beach house that definitely represents very different things for both of them, but it's very run down, and Kat ends up trying to renovate it so then she can, oh my god, I definitely got those mixed up. Okay, every time I said Kat, pretend I said Blake, and every time I said Blake, pretend I said Kat. I kept doing that when I was reading it as well, not because the characters were similar, but just because like their names seemed backwards to me. I really don't know why, but anyways, Blake wants to fix it up, and then Kat would buy her out. Blake is really needing the money essentially, but for Kat, there's so many memories connected to it, so she wants to like hang on to the house and everything. So yeah, basically they end up having to work together, like join forces and everything, and it's definitely a really, really interesting book. I've never read anything with a relationship between 2 people quite like that. There was also a childhood friends to lovers sort of thing going on there, so I did like the actual romances as well, but overall, I really liked this one. Next is The Layover by Lacey Walden, another one that I've read. This book is an enemies to lovers story, and it features a flight attendant at its core. This one did have a really good romance to it. It also is kind of a transformative story for the main character, but the romance was actually an enemies to lovers that I really liked. And if you know me, you know that's not necessarily my favorite trope, but I thought in this case it was very well done. This book is set in Bali, and it's set on this layover, obviously, and I just thought it completely transported me there. I felt like I was there. It's the kind of book that like you would want to read when you're on a plane, because kind of being a flight attendant is such an important part to it. So I think this is a super solid vacation read. Okay, and the last one for at least a little bit, I think, that I have already read is How to Fake It in Hollywood by Ava Wilder. I love fake dating, and I've kind of like, with these romance books, I was kind of trying to, I realized how much I was enjoying romance, so I was like, okay, let's pick up some more. And obviously I picked up a lot, but I was also like, I want to kind of focus, not all of them are, but I wanted to focus on tropes that I personally enjoy, like enemies to lovers is so popular. So a lot of the most popular romance books, they're enemies to lovers or hate to love. And I was like, well, I prefer fake dating, friends to lovers, that sort of thing. So I was kind of trying to seek books out that focused on that. And I saw that this new release obviously is fake dating. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. But this is a fake dating story set in Hollywood. Obviously, once again, doesn't take a genius. But you have an A-list actor, and then this girl, she acted on this show, and since then she's kind of been having trouble getting roles that she would like. She is having trouble getting taken seriously. So they set up this whole fake dating publicity stunt so then his image can be improved and she can hopefully get like actual acting jobs that she is wanting. But obviously we all know how fake dating things go, and this one actually had like a much deeper level to it as well, which I thought was really well done. Since I hadn't really heard of it, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was very pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed the relationship between the two characters, and I felt like I liked the fact that it went to a deeper level. I think that that was really brilliantly done, and also dealing with not only the struggles of the A-list actor character, he was really kind of like the deeper psychological level of things, but also the actress who's trying to make it. You're like seeing a lot of how she's treated as a female in Hollywood, and especially someone who has had a role that isn't necessarily like esteemed. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. We're getting to the rest of the pile. I'm gonna try and hammer these out really quickly because we have so many books, and I don't want this video to be ages long, and it already kind of is. So the next book that I have here is The Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy. I've never read anything by this author before, but this book kind of intrigued me. It's essentially about like a good girl who ends up falling for a bad boy, and I mean, I think that that trope, I don't know specifically what it would be, but there's definitely like the bad boys in literature that everyone seems to love, and I love the idea of a good girl kind of falling for that and everything and changing a little bit. Like, she's always been a people pleaser and she's trying to get beyond that. So I think it's definitely going to be another story that's really about the transformation of the main character, and I generally enjoy those a lot. Next is the other book that I have here by Lizzie Dent that I was talking about. So The Setup by Lizzie Dent. This is the same author as The Summer Job, which is the first book that I showed you guys. I think this one seems super interesting. It's One Summer, Two Men, and One Date with Destiny. It's dealing with like fortune telling and everything. Essentially, Project Mara, the main character's name is Mara, and she ends up setting herself this 3-month project to turn herself into the stylish, confident woman she's always wanted to be. But it's also set in an English sea town, so like that's where you have the cover, because I was kind of confused about where the cover came in. But it's about this like transformation for the sea club that she has been working at for years, and then also a transformation for herself. So once again, we have a little like coming of age sort of thing, not really, but you know what I mean, for the main character, and that's always a win in my books. The next book is one that I had been seeing absolutely everywhere, and that is Honey and Spice by Bulu Babalola. This is actually another fake dating story, and I've just heard such amazing things about this one that I'm like, yes, give me more fake dating, please, and that is why I really needed this one. It's about a young Black British woman who has kind of like absolutely no interest in love, to be honest, but she ends up finding herself in a fake dating relationship with the guy she has been warning everyone else about. So that obviously seems like a yikes situation, but also like it could be like so good. So I know this has been so hyped up, and I just really want to know why. I definitely want to try and get to it soon. It seems awesome. Next is Island Time by Georgia Clark. I've never read anything by this author before, but this is an ensemble rom-com that is set on an island. So like, what more could you really want? It's kind of like an Australian versus American sort of thing from my understanding, but it's essentially these two families families. Their only connection, one is Australian, one is American, but the only connection is that their daughters have married each other. And then they end up getting stranded on this tropical paradise for 6 weeks. So it's about like the kind of trials and tribulations of the situation. I can't imagine the daughters, like their family's not really, it seems like they don't really like each other and they're stuck there with their families on this island. That seems like a nightmare. Next is, of course, Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is the latest by the author of The Love Hypothesis. This is her second full-length novel. She has been releasing like a ton of novellas, but this is the next full-length novel that she has. So as per usual, it is another STEMinist rom-com, and this one is enemies to lovers rather than fake dating, which The Love Hypothesis was. As the back says, B's theory was right. Forcing a scientist to work with her nemesis triggers explosive results. So I'm expecting this to be obviously very sciencey, but a lot of fun too, and I hope that I like it. Next is The Lost Ticket by Freya Sampson. I think that I have another book by, oh yeah, I do, it's right here. I can find it. The Last Chance Library, also by Freya Sampson. You can see these covers are so absolutely adorable, and I've had my eye on these for a while and I decided to finally go for it. This one actually just came out, but I have been kind of eyeing Last Chance Library because it's about a girl. She's just this like lonely librarian in a sleepy little English village, and her library, she's trying to save her local library from closing, and all of the like eclectic patrons of it end up teaming together to try and help her. That sounds so cute. Like I just really love that. And then this one also sounds adorable. So this one is about strangers on a London bus. They end up teaming up to, she really likes writing, I guess, about like people teaming up, but I love that. So they team up to help an elderly man find his missed connection. That just sounds so cute. Like, I don't know, what more you could want from both of these books. I'm definitely really eager to read both of them. They sound adorable, kind of like similar concepts, but also really different. And I just can't wait for these. Next is The No Show by Beth O'Leary. So I kind of get Beth O'Leary and Josie Silver mixed up, and I don't know why. I really can't explain it, but one is the author of The Flat Share, which I didn't really enjoy, and then the other one is the author of One Day in December, which I did really like. So I actually thought that this was by Josie Silver, but it turns out it is not by Josie Silver. It's by Beth O'Leary, and having not liked The Flat Share, I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to read more by her, but I've heard some really good things about this one. So my idea was I might do a little reading vlog where I give authors that I didn't really like a second chance, and we'll see if I end up enjoying this one. This is set on Valentine's Day, and it sounds good. Like, it's set on Valentine's Day, so I'll maybe wait until then to read it, just because the vibes and everything. And it's following these like 3 girls end up discovering that they're all dating the same man. So kind of like John Tucker Must Die sort of thing. This seems so interesting, but yeah, I think that kind of video would be fun. So I'll kind of look at what other authors I didn't really like their first book and go from there. And that's definitely something I could do, so let me know if you would like it. Next is Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. I'm probably gonna read this around like Halloween. It seems like the perfect time to kind of read something like this. Like, not that it's Halloween-y, but something about serial killers, you know, a little ooky spooky. It would be good for this time of year, sort of. I mean, it's September 1st today, so it's like not this time of year, but you get what I mean. But yeah, this is basically about a girl who loves true crime, and she's like, how am I supposed to ever find love when I think that like everyone might be a serial killer, because I know so much about serial killers. And then she has this new neighbor move in who she really thinks is a serial killer. This sounds honestly awesome. Like, it could be a lot of fun, really funny, and I have my fingers crossed that it's gonna live up to my expectations. Next is Bet on It by Jodie Slaughter. This book I had pre-ordered and it just came out finally. Actually, it probably came out like 2 months ago now that I'm filming this video. It's blurbed by Talia Hibbert, which is always a good sign, but it's about like a bingo-based sex pact, so I don't really know what to think of that. I'm not really sure where that's going to lead, but I guess we're gonna find out. Next is Meet Me in Paradise by Libby Hubsher. I don't entirely know if I said that correctly, but this is about a character who has had like this lifelong fear of travel and has really played it safe since her mother died. Her mother was a journalist and ended up dying on assignment, so she's kind of scared of everything. But then her sister ends up planning this like weekend getaway at a spa, and she ends up up actually having to go and like travel to somewhere that, I mean, doesn't seem like a bad thing, but I do understand like her hesitations with that. So I like reading books about people being kind of pushed out of their comfort zone. So like this one says, Marion Cole has never seen the ocean or climbed a mountain or taken a risk on love. But if her sister's plan works, she might just do all three. So it's really her like trying to break free of those kind of restraints that she's kept herself in. And like it's kind of another story where it's a transformation for the main character. And I think those things just kind of push me to try and push myself out of my comfort zone. So I always enjoy reading them. Next is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I've actually seen this book floating around quite a bit, so I don't know if it's hyped because I feel like I've been kind of disconnected from things, but this author actually has written quite a few YA books, and I've read a couple of them now and I enjoyed them. And this is now an adult romance novel by them. It is kind of a romance with a twist though. It's about a ghostwriter who like ends up actually running into a ghost, and I mean, talk about the perfect romance for around October. This is definitely one that I will be reading very soon. I think it sounds like such a fun, like sort of different twist on a romance story. Next is Business Not As Usual by Sharon C. Cooper. This is kind of a very, the synopsis for this one's very vague. It basically just says like a woman learns about the risks of mixing business with pleasure. So I think it's just going to be kind of an office-based romance. I'm not sure what her job is, secretarial job. He says that all she really needs to do is win the lottery, so just a small thing, you know. And I guess that the love interest has grown up with a father who is an A-list actor and a socialite mother, and he's a venture capitalist, so he lives in the world of the rich and famous while the other character is kind of trying to make it. So the two of them end up like working together, but obviously different things happen, and kind of an opposites attract sort of thing coming from different worlds. I also really love opposites attract, so this one definitely did attract me to it. Next is Star-Crossed by Minnie Dark. I've had my eye on this one. They did, like, there was a different cover and I had kind of seen it, but it didn't really stick out to me, but this one they've kind of made it more like, definitely it's a romance, and that has appealed to me. Covers matter to me. I mean, I will never like not read something because it has an ugly cover, but sometimes it takes me a little bit longer. But this one is a childhood friends to lovers sort of deal, so that's definitely why it has appealed to me. And it's also using like astrology. The main character is super into astrology, and she tries to use that to get like her childhood best friend to fall in love with her. I think it's just going to be like funny, fun. It's gonna be a little bit messy, but that's never a bad thing. Sometimes it is, but not in this case. Next is Nothing But the Truth by Holly James. So this is a cute romance that is essentially about the lies that women like have to tell to get by and to be respected, and the liberation that actually comes with being truthful about things. It kind of has a magical twist where the main character, her 30th birthday is kind of like the catalyst for things. Her boyfriend cancels on her and she makes a wish to have the best day ever, and then she ends up waking up unable to tell a lie. So a recipe for disaster, but we'll see how it turns out. Next is Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. Wow, I really butchered that, but this book was sent to me to take a photo of for work, and I kind of had been like debating if I wanted to read it, and I think I will. So it's kind of a then and now thing. It's a 20-something writer, Shani Horowitz, so it's a Clueless retelling, I would say. But she feels stuck. All she does is turn out these puff pieces while the rest of her classmates are like doing really well. And then it's 10 years later, she has been through a brutal divorce and a healthy dose of therapy, and she is back in Los Angeles with the career of her dreams as a successful writer. But there's like this profile that she wrote 10 years ago about this A-list actor, I believe. Yeah, so it's her #1 celebrity crush. So it's kind of another, I don't know why I have so many that are like celebrities mixing with just not celebrities, but that seems to be the deal with this one as well. And I have kind of seen it around, seen some good things about it, so we'll see. Next is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This is definitely one that like, I wouldn't look at this cover and think that it was a romance. I don't know why, because they are embracing, but you know, usually romances, a lot of them now at least have the illustrated covers, and I do like those, but I like this kind of like change in pace. This is about two characters who spent a week when they were teenagers, they fell madly in love. And now it's much later, they're older, and the one character is a single mom and also a best-selling erotica writer. And she ends up meeting, or reuniting rather, with this guy that she had spent a week with at this literary event, and sparks obviously fly because they had this week sort of thing. So it's kind of childhood friends to lovers in a way because they had a week. I'm not sure if it's like told between then and now, or if you see any of what happened in the past, or if it's just in the present. I kind of hope that it bounces between the two, but I know this is definitely one that I've heard amazing things about. Next is Just Last Night by Mari McFarlane. Actually, someone told me how to say that name and I can't remember. I know it's Irish. I'm gonna go with Mari for now, and then I'll try and listen to the audiobook later and see if I'm right. But this is I believe it's childhood friends to lovers. It's either that or it's just like friends to lovers. Either way, I love that. I'm on board with it. So this is two best friends, one missed chance, and a night that changes everything. It definitely is childhood friends to lovers actually, now that I think about it, because it's about a group of three friends. They've been friends since they were teenagers, but the one friend obviously has a secret that she has like a major crush and is in love with the other friend. So something ends up happening essentially. The books is set like now that they're 30 years old, and something ends up happening and like their worlds are turned upside down. So I'm not sure if maybe something, my kind of thought or guess is that something happens to the third friend, but I don't know, we'll see. Next is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrane. I've heard such amazing things about this book, and I know that it's one that Hannah has read recently and she really loved. And Hannah like doesn't always love romances, so if she likes them, although her and I have really different book tastes, I do trust her opinion on this one. Not that I don't trust her opinion, you know what I mean. Anyways, this is another one that's kind of like with fame because it is about this reality dating show. So the reality dating show is very scripted, and the producer, he ends up like one of the contestants. They start falling for each other. I think that's so cute. I'm really excited, and yeah, I can't wait. Next is The Sweetest Remedy by Jane Iharo. So I have another book by this author, Ties That Tether, and I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet, but I'll get to it. This book is actually set in Nigeria. The main character's father has died, and she ends up traveling to Nigeria for his funeral. Along the way, she obviously meets her very extravagant family for the first time, but also ends up finding this love interest that is kind of changing everything for her. I'm trying to go faster now so that I'm not talking forever. Next is The X-Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is by the author of quite a few YA books, and then also, actually I just read a book by her recently, We Can't Keep Meeting Like This, but she also has The Weather Girl as her other adult romance book. This one was her first adult romance, and it is about two characters. They work at a radio show, they don't really get along, and then they decide to like, they're needing to kind of save their radio show, so they decide to do this thing where they're going to give exes essentially give relationship advice. So it ends up being a smash hit, obviously, and I mean, we can see where things are going from there. So definitely an enemies to lovers sort of deal, but this seems like a really different concept for that. Next is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I have one other book by this author, the Happy Ever After playlist, that I was going to unhaul, but then you guys said it was really good, so I did keep it. I just haven't read it yet. This one, I can't quite remember. I did take notes, but usually I try and take the notes and then like film the next day, but then I didn't end up actually filming the next day. So now it's taking me forever to film these videos because I keep on having to refresh myself on like absolutely everything. Sorry. Okay, so it's just described, yeah, I kind of remember the synopsis didn't really tell me much about it. It's just described as a modern fairy tale, opposites attract story with a carpenter and a sophisticated city girl. So kind of like your sort of Hallmark romance here. Also, there's a goat on the cover, which I would assume is the contractor, and then city girl, yeah, I can see that, but little goat. Next is Read Between the Lines by Rachel Lacey. This is a sapphic enemies to lovers story, and it follows a reclusive author and a Manhattan bookstore owner who hate to love, but also love to hate each other. So I think that seems like a really great concept for enemies to lovers. It sounds adorable, love the like bookishness of it, and I'm excited for it. Next is Yinka, Where Is Your Husband? And this is by Lizzie Damalola Blackburn. This follows the main character Yinka. She's 30 something, she's Oxford educated, like really successful, but the only thing her Nigerian aunties have been asking her is where her husband is, why she isn't married. Like many books before, but I'm not saying that in a bad way, like it's something that I definitely enjoyed. She sets off to try and find a perfect wedding date to like quiet them down and show that she is actually dating and she is actually doing well. So her and her best friend make this whole spreadsheet thing, and she is trying to find a husband for herself, and it sounds great. It's definitely going to be funny. Like, I'm really excited for it. Next is Meant to Be by Emily Giffin. I've never read an Emily Giffin book before. I know that she has a ton and definitely is like a really popular and well-known author, but this is kind of the first one that has appealed to me. Like maybe I will try some more out, but I kind of wanted to start with this one. This is about a restless golden boy and a girl with a troubled past who navigate a love story that may be doomed. It's about like an American royal family, basically. Like, they're not actually royalty, but they're really well known because they're military heroes and everything. And there's like a curse on their family as well. I don't really know. I just know so many people at work were talking about this book and really enjoying it. So it kind of, then I was like, well, I want to know. Like, I'm very easily influenced. Next is American Royalty, actually. I didn't even realize that was the next book, but by Tracy Livesay. I pre-ordered this book. I've had this for so long. It really shows how long it's been since I have done a haul. But this is kind of based on like Harry and Meghan Markle, and it's actually a rapper, which I think is so cool. So I'm definitely like super, super intrigued by this. Next is Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley. Has to do with a reality dating show. Once again, what do you know? But it also has to do with like a football player who really loves baking, like has a passion for baking. And this reality star, she turned down a proposal, so she's really hated. So the two of them end up fake dating to try and help save his bakery. I think that sounds so cute. Next is From the Jump by Lacey Walden. This is by the same author as The Layover, and it's once again kind of a story about a transformation for the main character. So like it says on the back, a chronic yes woman finally admits to what and who, which this sentence I don't really like, but you get the point, she really wants in this forgettable and heartfelt romantic comedy. She ends up like finally deciding to go on this college trip with her old college friends. She goes to South Africa with them after like saying no all the time. She decides to finally do it. I know it says a chronic yes woman, but I mean, like, she says yes usually to like work and everything. She is overworked, so now she's kind of taking some time for herself, and I think the setting seems awesome. It seems like it's going to be a great transformation for the character. And final book of pile number 2, we still have one more pile to go, is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I got this as kind of like an out of my comfort zone, we'll see, because I think this is more on the erotica side of things, so I might not like it, but like, gonna try everything. But I mean, based on the fact that it says on the back, let me worship you, I feel like it is kind of leaning more toward erotica. This is also a Hades and Persephone retelling, and I think when it comes to romances, I don't know if fantasy is kind of my vibe. I think I like more of the contemporary. It's even like Regency romances. I don't think that's kind of my thing with adult romances. If I'm reading a historical fiction, I feel like I want kind of like a little bit more than just a Regency romance. That's kind of what I've started to learn. But yeah, I am going to take a chance on this one, and we'll see how it turns out. Final pile. We are so close, but we're also not really that close. So next book is Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. I'm sure you've heard of this book. Obviously, the movie came out like a couple years ago. I just never read this one, and I was like, I'm better late than never, you know? I can go for it and I can read it. I watched the movie, but I didn't really pay attention. So I think if I watched it again, it would be like watching it for the first time. I have to really be in the right mood to watch a movie, or else it goes over my head and I'm just not interested. But I've heard such amazing things about the book, so I'm hoping I will like it. Next is Adult Assembly Required by Abby Waxman. Look at that little pug. I'm obsessed with that little pug. Oh, and there's a cat. Anyways, this one is about Nina Hill and Knight's bookstore. When Lauren, oh, okay, so I didn't realize this, but it's kind of actually set in the same world as the author's previous book, which is The Bookish Life of Nina Hill. So it says like, welcome to the world of Nina Hill and Knight's bookstore. So I guess maybe I should read that one first. Good to know. I'm obsessed with this pug and this cat. Like, that pug looks like so cute. But the main character, Laura Costello, finds herself absolutely lost in Los Angeles, which seems like a nightmare. She ends up being rescued by Nina Hill from the first book, this like rogue bookseller, and they couldn't be more different, but they're about to change each other's lives forever. I've been talking way too much today. I cannot do it. So yeah, it seems kind of more like not really so much a romance. So I don't know if this is actually a romance. The cover gave me more romance vibes, but if you have read the first book, let me know if I should pick that one up. Oh my God, I can't talk, but I still have so many books to go. Next is Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. I wasn't sure if I would want to read this book because I'm not a huge fan of mystery, and this is a mystery. Like, it's a Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery, but it has wiener dogs on it. And like, I know that the wiener dog is like a part of the book, and I feel like I have to read it. That I have to do it for Charlie. I just have to, right? It could be fun. I will give it a chance. Like, I do love cooking, so there are things that are going in my direction, but it's just mysteries I tend to be a little bit picky on. This was like really hyped up when it first came up, and I think that this one is actually, it's kind of more of like a cozy mystery. I know that that's a sort of thing. But I know that there's a sequel out now, so if I enjoy that one, then maybe I will read the next one too. Next is 1,000 Miles by Bridget Morrissey. This author has another book. I haven't read it yet. This is kind of like the Casey West book that I will be hauling for you guys, but I just hauled it in the video that I just filmed. But it's two friends who are going on like a road trip, and they essentially have a second chance. These two friends have been like silent for a decade. They haven't talked to each other, but then they end up having to go on this road trip together, and obviously that's going to be an interesting situation, but I feel like it's going to be very romantic as well. Next, I have two books by the same author, kind of very different vibes though. So I have Iona Iverson's Rules for Commuting and The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley. I say because the covers are like entirely different. I know that this one has a different cover in the US, but I like this cover better. But yeah, this is like just about kind of an event ends up happening. She always seems, the main character always sees the same people on her commute, like many people, and they just go by like these names, like the one's the man spreader because that's what he always does. So something ends up happening and then they actually like get to know each other, and I think that seems really interesting. And then this one is kind of similar because it's about this like green notebook that ends up uniting strangers. So I've seen both of these books around quite a bit and heard some good things, so I felt like I should see what all that buzz is about. Next is Wait for It by Jen McKinley. I have read Paris is Always a Good Idea by this author, and it was a like really good pleasant surprise for me. So when I saw that they have a new book, I was like, yeah, this is kind of another like, I feel like a lot of the books that I've gravitated towards are like changing lives. Like that's the deal for the character. So this one is about a girl who really wants like a new lease on life, and she ends up going to Arizona to try and do that for herself. She ends up renting a guest house on this gorgeous property which has a really mysterious owner, and I have a feeling that that owner is going to be the love interest. So next is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. I recently finally read The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa, had a blast with it. So this one I will probably be kind of reading around October when my other sister's getting married. I read The Worst Best Man before my first sister got married, and now my oldest sister, I should say, and now when my middle sister gets married, I will read this one before that. But this is about two strangers who end up trapped in a lie and have to fake date their way out of it. That sounds fun. Love fake dating, so yes, please. Next is While We Were Dating by Jasmine Galori. I have read one book by this author, but I have like 2 or 3 others that I really need to read. No, I do have 3 others. I need to get caught up on those, but I didn't like her first book because it was like just different than what I thought it was going to be about, so that kind of threw me off. This one is another thing about fake dating and about Hollywood. I don't know what it is with all those books and me gravitating toward it, but it is what it is. So yeah, we have an actor and an actress who have been working together, and they kind of realize that the romance that they have been playing has at some point turned into reality. And it's different than the other one that I read, so I think it will be good. We are at almost the bottom of the pile. I swear we have 6 books left, not including this one, so we have 7. But next is Something to Talk About by Meryl Wilsner. This is about a showrunner and her assistant. So what is it with Hollywood? I don't know why I have so many Hollywood books. To be fair, when I was first well, not when I was first starting to read, but when I a couple of the first books that I remember reading for fun, it was like Confessions of a Hollywood Starlet. So apparently I have an interest in that, even though like I really don't care. The idea of it, I guess. Actual celebrities, I'm kind of like whatever, but I don't know. It's the mystery of it appeals to me. But yeah, a showrunner and her assistant, they end up accidentally like giving the world something to talk about when they fueled this ridiculous rumor about the two of them. But then they kind of obviously realize that like this rumor might not be untrue, and we'll see. That was so strange. I'm so sorry. Next is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. I haven't read anything by this author. I have one book that I need to read by this author. This is a trend. This one has been super hyped up on TikTok. Like I had kind of seen it everywhere, and I think it was childhood friends to lovers. Oh wait, there's a lot happening here. So your nemesis also happens to be your fiance. So happily ever after becomes a lot more complicated in this wickedly funny lovers to enemies to lovers. Lovers to enemies to lovers. So it's not childhood friends to lovers. Lovers to enemies to lovers romantic comedy debut. So, oh, I remember. Okay, so this one, they essentially like make this bet because they don't want to have to pay for the wedding. They don't want to cancel everything because they'll lose so much money. So then they're seeing like who will fold first with canceling the wedding, and then they'll have to foot the bill for it. Oh, Spicy. Next I have Ghost by Dolly Alderton. This is another one that I was sent to take a photo of for work, and I don't really know all that much about it. The main character is Nina Dean. She is single. She owns her own apartment. She's about to publish her second book. She has a great relationship with her ex-boyfriend. She downloads a dating app just for fun, and she ends up meeting a great guy, and yeah. Oh, but then he ghosts her. Oh, okay. Interesting. I get why it's called Go. Next is I'm So Not Over You by Kosako Jackson. This is about exes who end up like fake dating, and I've never really read anything where it was exes who fake date, but I guess that is kind of the concept for You Deserve Each Other. But there's a wedding once again, like it's a wedding date situation, and obviously like we know if they're fake dating. We know how that's gonna end, but I always love it. Next is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a small town romance. It's set against the backdrop of a wedding, and it's described as a clever and steamy rom-com about taking chances and learning about love. Next is The Fastest Way to Fall by Denise Williams. I have read How to Fail at Flirting by Denise Williams, and this is her second book, I believe. She's also written some novellas, so it's kind of hard to keep track of what's a novella and what's not. This one actually seems really fun. It is about a girl who ends up falling for her personal trainer, and I did read like a fitness-based book because I really like fitness, and I read Set on You and it was kind of a letdown, so maybe I'll read this one soon and it might kind of make up for that. And the final book that I have here is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. I've heard such amazing things about this one as a friends to lovers story. I know it's supposed to be more kind of like a fade to black moment from my understanding of it, but it's about like leaving the friend zone, all of that. It seems fun. Finally, those are all the books that I had to haul today. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in another new one soon. Bye!